So going into this year's Survivor Series, I predicted this show to be absolutely mid, and I'm glad to say I was wrong. It was actually garbage, because from start to finish, outside of a couple really great moments, this was a terrible PLE. It took some convincing, it took some thinking about what I saw, and I've come to the conclusion this was a bad PLE. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a few standout, amazing moments that happened inside of this PLE. It wasn't complete and utter garbage. It wasn't the worst PLE I've ever seen. Heck, it probably wasn't even the worst PLE of this year, which is probably saying something, right? However, this was a disappointment, and honestly, I can't even say that because I expected it to be mid, and it ended up being worse. So there you go. But let's go ahead and talk about it match by match, everything that took place, the results, the winners, the losers, the storyline elements. Let's get into the review for 2024 Survivor Series. Now, the first match on the card was the worst match of the night, arguably. There was another doozy that took place later tonight, but we'll talk about that in just a second, brothers. Now, the first match was Team Rhea versus Team Liv. Rhea Ripley, Bianca, Naomi, Bayley, and Io Sky versus Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, and Raquel Rodriguez. This WarGames match was the epitome of absolute and utter trash from start to finish. Number one, this is something that everybody's going to be talking about. The botches in the first 15 to 20 minutes of this match were absolutely atrocious. The Nia Jax chair shots, those cupcake shots, those patty cake chair shots, those were absolutely embarrassing. They looked fake. They looked botchy. All the different top rope and aerial moves Bayley was trying to do. The dodges were super slow. The first 15 minutes with Naomi, Bayley, and Nia Jax were wrestled in slow motion. It was all just slow motion wrestling, botches, and bad in-ring work. It just was. These are professional wrestlers getting paid millions of dollars, and the fact that this is the final product we got was garbage and botches over and over again is unacceptable. Now, as the match got to the midway point, things started to pick up a little bit. Io Sky came in, Tiffany Stratton came in, Bianca came in, and there were a couple cool moments. Now, obviously, the main cool moment that happened inside of this match, or at least one of the things I should say, Rhea Ripley came out in this Batman, horn-looking mask. I don't know what it was. I'm vengeance. But at the end of the day, she came out and, she helped the team, okay? It was basically, the last member to enter, obviously, was Liv Morgan for her team. She comes out and brings the baseball bat that she used to beat up Rhea and break her face open, or her head, to give her that injury, and that's pretty much when the match really begins. Once this happens, we basically see the biggest spot of the match, obviously, was Io Sky with a trash can on her head, and Tiffany Stratton on the other side of the, the WarGames cage, jumping off and doing a senton while Io Sky's doing a moonsault in a trash can. That was the big spot. Now, obviously, this sounds cool on paper, but I kid you not, when I was watching this, I was just like, all right, that's cool. It's a dangerous move, obviously, so I respect the wrestlers for doing it. Of course I respect them. But Io Sky has done this trash can spot 5 times already. Tiffany Stratton, we already knew she was going to do something like this going into the match. So now we're just getting what we expect. And then near the end of the match, we see fire extinguishers used. We had a pretty cool riptide through a table, which I thought was really nice. And then, as I predicted, of course, because everything is predictable now, Rhea Ripley pins Liv Morgan 1, 2, 3 after riptiding her through a table, and then Team Rhea wins the match. The problem with this match is multiple different things. Obviously, it's the boringness and the slowness and the awful botches throughout pretty much 90% of this match. On top of that, it's the fact that nothing changes. Team Rhea won, what does that change? If Team Liv won, what would that have changed? Absolutely nothing. And when you factor in there were supposed to be story elements like Io and Bayley's patch that didn't really play a role in this, Io, Bayley, and Bianca's past that didn't really play a role in this, all of that stuff not mattering is very questionable, and it makes it for a really boring and uninteresting match. When the story's not there, and the end result doesn't matter, and everything in between had mostly botches and boring content, what is there positive to say about this match besides a couple decent spots? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. Then you also factor in the fact that Tiffany did the fake cash-in thing. It's Tiffy time. It's Tiffy time. It's time for me to turn off my TV and stop watching. Because every single time she's about to cash in, she asks 50 times, can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? No. It's ridiculous. So she doesn't cash in, of course, even though both of the champions were knocked out, and that's pretty much the end of the discussion. Team Rhea wins. She comes out in a little mask. She's vengeance now. She's Batman, and that's the end of the discussion. Team Rhea wins. Io Sky still has yet to get her World Championship match. I guess that happens at Saturday Night Main Event. I don't know what happens. This match was meaningless. It was pointless. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I thought it was boring. And the botches, unacceptable. The story and build up to this match and in the match, also unacceptable. And the biggest problem with this match, I didn't even talk about this, how in the world do you have the Miss Money in the Bank, the Women's World Champion, the Women's WWE Champion, a big enforcer bodyguard like Raquel Rodriguez and Candice LeRae on the same team, and you lose to a bunch of people with no titles besides Bianca Belair, who has a Women's Tag Championship? Are you kidding me right now? It's unacceptable. How are these people who are supposed to be the top of the women's division losing to people with no gold? With no gold! You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. It's unacceptable, the logic, the booking, and the storytelling inside of this match. But somehow, I'm sure people love this match and they're going to eat it up. Congratulations. This match was trash. The next match on the card was LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This was unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I am not necessarily too upset with the fact that Shinsuke has the U.S. Championship because at some point you have to give him gold. He's on his way out. He's older, all that stuff. But LA Knight is 1 year younger than Shinsuke Nakamura. This feud had awful buildup. They had no promos together. They barely talked to each other. They had a couple brawl segments that weren't even brawls. Shinsuke just destroyed this dude from behind most of the time, and then he missed him in the face. And all of that leads to a guy like LA Knight, who is super over, a megastar inside of the company of WWE. He was super over as a babyface for a year and a half. Did all of that grinding week in, week out, wrestling every week, every now and then, or every other week, or every week, I should say. All of that just to win the U.S. title off Logan Paul. Then to lose it, not even 4 months later, to Shinsuke Nakamura, who's just coming back. Are you kidding me right now? It is unacceptable. It's not about the fact that Shinsuke won. It's about the fact that LA Knight worked so hard and was so over and is really a main event World Heavyweight Championship level talent and main event talent, and he's fighting in the mid card for a U.S. Championship that he finally gets. He finally gets it. Yay! Woohoo! Yeah! And then he loses to Shinsuke Nakamura in a match that was absolutely mid, by the way. I didn't even talk about this. The actual in-ring work rate of this match was not good. It wasn't good. I don't know who's going to say it, but it just wasn't good. LA Knight was wrestling like he knew the result and that he didn't like the result of him eventually going to lose this match. That's what it felt like. And for the first time in a long time, the crowd didn't really seem that much in to the LA Knight matches, or to this match specifically, I should say, which lets you know something. Either, maybe they're just done with LA Knight, I don't know, or the company's done with him, or something's wrong with the booking or something. But either way, this was disappointing. It took the life out of the room. It really sucked the air out of the room when I was watching this match, man. I was like, wow. He grinds all of that just to get a meaningless U.S. Championship, and it has a good reign, a very good reign, actually, and then ultimately he just loses it. And if all of this is done just for him to win the title back, it's not good booking, it's just dumb. I'm going to explain that later when I talk about what happened with Gunther and Damian Priest. But again, this LA Knight match, the in-ring work was actually very mid overall, and the fact that he lost... I guess you can't make Shinsuke look weak. You had to do something, but you could have easily had him win or lose, I should say, by a DQ, and he dominates LA Knight the whole match and loses by a DQ or something. That way you can say Shinsuke looked more dominant than LA Knight, but didn't necessarily take the title. He got ahead of himself. Something like that to prolong the story. Now we have to wait weeks and weeks or maybe a month for LA Knight to eventually win back a title that he should have never lost. Like Rhea Ripley, I'm going to take back my title that I never lost, yeah. I never lost, yeah. Anyways, this match, disaster. I hated the results, and I honestly thought the match itself was absolute garbage. So there you go. And next, and I'm glad this was next, it was a great palate cleanser after that garbage LA Knight and Shinsuke situation. Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig for the Intercontinental Championship was a complete and utter banger. Braun Breaker is the future of the wrestling industry. I respect you. I love you. I have some libations in my back pocket for you. But the problem is this. Cody Rhodes, by the way, we're going to get to this dude in a second. He was not on the show tonight. What should have happened is instead of LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura getting a rushed build and getting a rushed match thrown out on the Survivor Series card, it should have been Kevin Owens versus Cody, and maybe KO gets DQ'd or something so it doesn't win legit, and then you have an Extreme Rules or a no-holds-barred match at Saturday Night Main Event between Cody and KO for the WWE Championship. That way you're fighting champion, your workhorse champion, I took the Cena schedule, and then there's third, the wrestling industry, I'm Cody Rhodes, all that garbage. When he actually says those things, maybe you actually have him fight at Survivor Series, I don't know. But instead, we're not going to do that. We're going to wait till Saturday Night Main Event, and you don't have a good day, have a great day. Anyways, let's go ahead and get back to the match. Braun Breaker, Ludwig, and Sheamus. This match was absolutely awesome. The physicality was incredible. The selling was incredible. There was a phenomenal sequence where Braun Breaker just launches himself in midair and just launches himself at Ludwig, hits him with like a flying clothesline. It's absurd. He hits that flying clothesline off the apron onto the announce table. He also had this great sequence where Ludwig, I should say, knocked down Braun Breaker and he's running over to the barricade and he's like celebrating, and Sheamus just comes up behind him like it's a horror movie, like he's Jason Voorhees, and just hits the 10 beats of the Bowrin. Braun Breaker comes over, he hits Braun Breaker with it as well. Then we get back in the ring. Braun gets shoved into like a chair and then gets out of it. Sheamus runs off the rope, bro kick after dodging Braun's spear, goes for the pin, and then Ludwig pulls the ref out at the very last second, bro, and costs Sheamus the match, dude. Absolutely incredible. incredible sequence that was. Ludwig and Sheamus kind of get into it. He beats up Sheamus with a shillelagh, which Sheamus actually got marked up from it, which was crazy. And then he gets back in the ring after hitting Sheamus with this like DDT looking thing, whatever it was. And then Braun spears Sheamus, pins him, and that is that, man. Braun Breaker is a savage. This match was action-packed. It was entertaining. The crowd was super into this match in comparison to a lot of the other stuff that took place tonight besides the Bloodline main event. So yeah, I love this match. I thought it was entertaining, it was hard-hitting, it was physical, and it had the right winner with Braun Breaker. This was probably one of the greatest triple threats of the year. I mean, the one with LA Knight, Mello, and Andrade was a phenomenal triple threat as well at Crown Jewel, even though Crown Jewel was also pretty bad as well, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, this was a great triple threat match. I loved it. It was probably, objectively speaking, the best in-ring match on the card, rivaling with the main event. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But yeah, great match. Braun Breaker retains. The penultimate match on the show was Gunther versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this match from start to finish was just mid. It was a run-of-the-mill match. I'm not going to sit here and say it was great because it just simply wasn't. It was like around that 6 out of 10, like 5 out of 10 average level match. You get what I'm saying? More of a 6 out of 10 though. 6 out of 10 for me is like the average range. And anything 5 or below is just absolutely below mid or garbage. This match was like a 6. It was in the average range. This could have main evented like a Raw a few weeks ago, quite frankly. And the real problem I have with this match, because there were some good elements of physicality here and there. And, you know, Damian Priest showing some resilience and things of that nature. But the real issue I have with this is, number one, I am not a big fan of all of Gunther's matches. Like, everyone else thinks he's some phenomenal wrestler. I don't believe that. I think in certain situations, like when he's faced against certain opponents, like a Drew McIntyre or a Sheamus, like Mania 39, he's going to put on absolute masterclass matches. I actually think his match with Damian Priest at SummerSlam was way better than their match here, and I think that match at SummerSlam was an absolute banger. However, this one was just slow. It was boring. They played the injury angle with Damian Priest in his shoulder, and it just doesn't work for the story of this match. The whole build-up was Gunther being some big wimp and some big loser who was scared to stand up to Damian Priest because he didn't win clean at SummerSlam, so he feels like he couldn't beat Damian Priest legit. And then in this match, not only did Finn Balor get involved and interfere, but Damian Priest had a shoulder injury, so he still didn't win this match clean, but somehow he's probably going to move on and act like nothing happened. You see what I'm saying? None of this makes any sense when you really think about it. Why would you build up the whole premise of Gunther being afraid and not being able to win clean and not feeling like a fully true champion that truly beat Damian Priest at SummerSlam just for him to win unclean at Survivor Series? What is the point of the build-up? What is the point of the end of this match? The story in the whole match itself just felt empty. It was very empty. The story doesn't matter. It didn't carry any weight. Everyone knew that either Dom or Finn was coming out to beat up Damian or cost him the match anyways. So what matters in here? You know what I'm saying? And then Gunther boots Finn Balor in the face after Finn Balor gets involved. And then Finn Balor's like knocked out, but he still cost Damian because he hit the coup de grace off of the steps. And that's pretty much that. Gunther brings him back in the ring, does a shoulder, like a shoulder and a head combined into a headlock. And then Damian Priest is just knocked out. They fling his hand up, and that's it. Gunther retains the World Heavyweight Championship like I predicted. Again, the build for this match I thought was stupid. And after seeing the end of the match, it was pointless. And seeing that this match was worse than the one at SummerSlam, that was actually a pretty solid and good match in my opinion, I don't understand how we got this as a final result. This match was mediocre, and it was a little bit disappointing if I do say so myself. Along with the story, like I said, it just wasn't good. So that's that. And then we get to the main event of the show with Roman Reigns and the OG bloodline of Jimmy, Jey Uso, Sammy Uso, I'm adamant, and CM Punk versus Solo Sikoa, Brunson Reed, Jacob Fatu, I love you Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. Now, obviously, going into this match, everyone I'm sure was very hyped for this. I was hyped for this as well. And I am glad to say I thought this match was actually pretty solid from start to finish. Now, I will say, one of the biggest things about this match was the intrigue and the hype level to what was going to happen with Paul Heyman. Could The Rock show up? Could Seth Rollins show up and beat up Punk or Brunson or beat up Roman or something like that? So that did add some elements. So the fact that that didn't happen did kind of take a little bit away from the hype of this match. But the execution of the story and the in-ring moments as the match went on, I thought were simply great. You had the constant friction between Punk and Roman the entire build-up to when everybody was in the ring, which I thought was very good. There was actually a pretty good in-ring work throughout the most of this match. Jacob Fatu, I have to give props to, I love you Solo! Jacob Fatu was great inside of this match. The moonsaults, the athleticism, the pop-up Samoan drop, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff I thought was very good. Seeing the Usos back in action again, working together with each other, doing the 1D, they hit the 1D, you know what I'm saying? So that was a really good moment, got a great pop from the crowd. You also have the simple fact that when you're going throughout this match, there's just a certain element and an excitement and an intrigue that the bloodline going against the new bloodline really brings, along with CM Punk being in there, who, by the way, CM Punk didn't really contribute that much of anything in terms of the physicality in-ring work inside of this match. However, he did aid the storytelling of the match, so it kind of balanced itself out. And obviously, you have, the big spots in this match where the fact that when Roman, was going to head into the ring, CM Punk kind of stops him and cuts him off and then goes back into the ring. You also had earlier in the match, too, Roman Reigns, he cut off CM Punk from going out and let Sammy go ahead first, so you had that element going on there. Obviously, when Roman Reigns went in, they, sewed up the cage, they put a chain on it so Roman couldn't get in, so he climbs the top of the cage, gets on the top rope, and it's a crossbody on all 5 of the new Bloodline members, so that was a really good spot. And then he just went ham for a second, hitting spears, Superman punches, the Samoan slap, you get what I'm saying? Mama Rose, Mama Rose, Mama Rose, you know what I'm saying? He does all of that stuff. And then we get to the ultimate conclusions in the massive moments inside of this match. Bronson Reed, as I predicted, which I didn't know they were going to fully go through with this, he hits a tsunami off of the top of the WarGames cage, which is absolutely absurd. He was going to hit it on Roman Reigns, but CM Punk actually picked up Roman Reigns off the table and saved him from getting hit by that tsunami. You know what I'm saying? So that happened. Bronson Reed falling from that height for absolutely nothing and going through a table is absurd. But Jimmy Uso jumps off of the top of the WarGames cage and puts Jacob Fatu through a table, which was an absolutely masterful moment. It was a great splash, and it was a very, very great moment. Then that brings us all the way to the end of the match where CM Punk, or this happened during the match, I should say. CM Punk and Roman are at odds, obviously, and Paul Heyman's sitting outside of the ring, and he's looking, and he's like, you guys have to work together. You guys have to work together. I thought Paul Heyman was going to be saved for the end of this match, and he was going to come out with, The Rock or something like that and reveal that The Rock was behind this whole new Bloodline thing, but that didn't happen. Basically, Paul Heyman comes out, riles them up, rallies the team together, all 5 OG Bloodline members versus all 5 new Bloodline members. Let the War Games begin. All-out war happens. The OG Bloodline gets the upper hand. You have double super kicks to Solo and Jacob Fatu, all this other stuff. And then you get the ending of the match. Solo gets hit with the double super kicks, the Haluva kick, the GTS, and then boom, a spear from Roman Reigns. 1, 2, 3. OG Bloodline wins the match. I thought the in-ring work rate, was solid. The storytelling was very good between Roman and Punk and the Usos teaming up and Sammy working with Roman again. I thought that was really good. Paul Heyman getting involved, I thought was a nice little touch. And the ending is kind of a situation where it's like an Avengers Age of Ultron when Ultron's getting blasted by Thor, Vision, and Iron Man. You have Solo taking finishers from basically everyone, and then, he gets beat, and that's that. I'm assuming we're not fully done yet because Roman is probably going to beat Solo for the Ulafala in the final title of Tribal Chief. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think he should have just beat Solo and grabbed the Ulafala at this current moment. And I will say, this War Games match was very solid in my personal opinion, but it wasn't incredible, right? It wasn't amazing. It wasn't a 9 or a 10 out of 10, but a 7 or 8 out of 10 for this match works well. It was a pretty good match. I enjoyed myself. I was entertained. The crowd was actually really into this match as well, which added because the crowd tonight was not super into every match that took place on this card for obvious reasons because some of these matches were absolute utter trash or just meaningless in general. But I enjoyed this. It ends off with the OG Bloodline along with Punk. Roman Reigns is hesitant to shake Punk's hand, and then he goes in and shakes Punk's hand, man. So Roman Reigns and Punk give each other the nod, and they're together. The whole team had to work together just for this one night to make sure Solo's Bloodline could not stand tall, and that's how we ended. They're all standing at the top of the ramp, putting the ones up. Punk's got the go-to-sleep emote going on. Roman Reigns, gives acknowledgement to the Wise Man. Wise Man gives gives CM Punk a hug and promises him that he's got his favor still lined up for whenever Punk needs it. We don't know what that favor is, but I'm sure we'll find out something about that down the line. But overall, it was a good main event, and I enjoyed it.
Number 1, though, quick side note, shout out to this botch, bro. Roman Reigns, I think his belt got caught in the ropes, and it messed up the moment where he speared CM Punk. And also, shout out to NYU, No Yeet University. These football intros for the Bloodline members were awesome.
And overall, those are basically my thoughts on Survivor Series for this year. Now, the opening match, like I said, I thought was absolute garbage outside of a couple pretty cool spots, obviously. We also had the second match. LA Knight versus Shinsuke is an utter disaster, quite frankly. I don't care what excuses or, whatever things the internet's going to use to reason this or try and make excuses for this. I simply don't care. Braun Breaker versus Ludwig versus Sheamus, absolute banger. Great triple threat match. Gunther versus Damian, mid-match, average match, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't good. And then you have the main event, which I thought was a good main event. It was a good match from start to finish. I was intrigued. I was entertained. It had a good story inside of the ring. And that's pretty much all you can ask for at this point. So yeah, there you go. Overall, Survivor Series War Games, you have to do the math, do the fractions. There was 5 matches. 2 of them I'd say were good. The other 3 were absolute trash. So 6/10 of the pay-per-view were garbage. Overall, the pay-per-view gets a solid 4 out of 10 from me. It was a bad PLE. It had good moments, but sometimes you have to weigh the good and the bad, and I think the bad was like up here, and the good was like right here. So that's pretty much what you get. I don't think Survivor Series this year was that good, but I expected it to be mid, and ended up exceeding my expectations and being garbage. So there you have it. Let me know what you thought about Survivor Series in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about my takes. Feel free to fire off in the comments amongst yourselves, and I may check out some of them and read them and reply to you. You never know. But at the end of the day, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed Survivor Series if you could, you know what I'm saying? And have a phenomenal day. I thank you for watching. Peace out. One love. Deuces. Ooses. Yeet.